What are the ideal picks you can make in the first 15 rounds of a 12-team half-point PPR mock draft? We break down the ideal and perfect picks for you as we begin another edition of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. As usual, I'm one of your co-hosts, Vinnie Iyer, and I'm not doing this. I'm writing about NFL and fantasy football for sportingnews.com. My co-host, Michelle Medzouk, is off today, so we're going to break things down for you on today's show, continuing our mock draft journey. We've looked at different types of mock drafts. We looked at heavy RB, we've looked at zero RB, we've looked at early QB, all things that you can consider in drafting your teams. Now, we're going to look at all these picks together. What are the ideal targets? And hint, this will be an early tight end draft. So we'll get into those top 15 picks. These are the perfect picks you can make in every round. We'll say that you're picking in the middle, somewhere there. These are the players that you should be targeting in half-point PPR to have the ultimate roster that you can build here. And we're not doing round 16, 17, because those are the kicker defense rounds. We saved those for last here. So this is building the part of your roster that's all skill positions, backups, and starters here. So we'll dive right into that here in a moment. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen today. Tomorrow, Michelle will be back, and we'll break down some of the things you want to consider in the late rounds. And I do have a story up there looking at the deep sleepers at sportingnews.com, as well as the kind of pick-by-pick strategy, no matter if you're picking number 1 or number 12, somewhere in between in your draft order. Welcome to Locked On Fantasy Football, your destination to become the smartest fantasy football player in the league. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, your fantasy football team every day. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's at Gametime.co or the Gametime app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So we thank Gametime for sponsoring this episode, and we'll hear more about them later in the show. For now, let's look at the first 5 rounds, and this is how I want things to play out. So let's say I'm picking somewhere from 4 to like 8 in the first round. So this covers a lot of the spots, except for maybe the turns. They're first overall and the 12, 13 and coming back. So really covers a good basis of picks that you could get these players actually in a lot of leagues. And part of it is also you have to reach a little bit. When we say reach, it means going after a player that you like that maybe ranked a little bit lower and their ADP is a little bit lower, but this is your opportunity to get them when you're on the clock. And this is a player that you want to look at in these particular points in the draft. So let's get started. So in the first round, I gave away kind of where I was going, and this is kind of our look at the tight end early draft. Well, I like Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce, there's one thing in common that I've seen with Travis Kelce. He's on a lot of winning teams. My own last year in a league, I see him on so many teams here, that these teams that win championships, that have big seasons, put up a lot of points during the regular season in fantasy football, in seasonal year-long leagues. This is the key player, Travis Kelce. Why? Because he's so far ahead of the other players at the position. Where, look, Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson could have big years, and really Andrews was better than Kelce, but he's just so safe, right? Every week you're going to get a big week from Travis Kelce. He's the clear go-to guy for Patrick Mahomes. He hasn't slowed down. He's going to get targeted a ton. There's a good chance he scores, and then he can explode. We saw that short 3-touchdown game he had. They just flipped the ball in the end zone, and you're sitting pretty. I mean, he's scoring like a QB1 in certain weeks. So Travis Kelce is just so important to have on a team. Look, you can't force it. I think you could think about him at number 1 overall. I'm not sure I would go in that direction there because, again, Justin Jefferson has a little bit of a special tier wide receiver. Christian McCaffrey also may be separating himself from the running backs, and we know those are scarce as well, those workhorses and those huge target monsters who could lead the league in receiving and touchdowns. But we know Travis Kelce is a threat to do that as well. And again, it just makes your roster economy a lot better here because you just invest in Travis Kelce. You don't need a backup. Just a plug and play a guy. He did take a backup later in this draft that I was conducting here to see what we could do with ideal targets in each round. But you don't have to do it, and you don't have to do it until very late at the latest here. So looking at Travis Kelce as my first pick, if I'm in that, again, round even 3, I'll say pick 3 to pick 9 in the first round of a draft. So these players can all apply to that position. Now let's go into round 2. So we come around, we come back to the middle here, and I'm targeting Chris Olave. There's a lot of buzz over Garrett Wilson, and rightfully so. I think, however, he's going to be too rich and too expensive right now, especially now that Corey Davis has announced his retirement. So his ADP is going up. It's going ahead of Devontae Adams, challenging Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I don't think Garrett Wilson's going to be there, maybe if I'm picking in the middle. So Chris Olave is the easy pivot here. He had big air yard numbers in New Orleans last year. He's got Derek Carr, who's going to target him a ton. He's going to come through with some more red zone love and touchdowns. So I love Chris Olave as a wide receiver 1. Is Kelce and Olave? Yeah, I'll live with that. These are guys that are going to dominate targets, clear number 1 from their quarterbacks. And we know Mahomes loves Kelce, and we know Derek Carr, whether it's Darren Waller, Devontae Adams, is going to pepper his most reliable target with targets. And you look at Chris Olave at round 2, I love it. So Kelce, Olave started. Not saying we're going to 0 running back here, but clearly we are taking the best player available and wanting to play that game. And again, Kelce gives me advantage at tight end immediately. We'll see what happens in running back, but I'm going with Chris Olave here round 2. My ideal 3rd round pick then would be Jahmyr Gibbs. This is no surprise because he's going as an RB2, but this guy's going to finish well inside the RB1 status here, especially in half-point PPR, because he's going to catch a lot of passes. He's going to be effective. I don't know why everyone's flocking to David Montgomery. I get it. He's an okay back, and this offensive line is great, so anyone who runs behind it in Detroit is going to have success. But Jahmyr Gibbs does not get taken so high in the draft to be second fiddle to David Montgomery. He's also going to eat up a lot of receiving work. He's also a very good red zone runner from Alabama. So I love Jahmyr Gibbs as my RB1. I'll take him. It might seem like an RB2, but again, this is why this is the ideal draft. Knowing that I could sit on Gibbs potentially based on his ADP and ranking, I've loaded up with Kelce, Olave, and I feel really great about Gibbs. Now, there's a target in round 4 that I've gone after, and now ideally Calvin Ridley would be around here in round 4, but I think I'm going to have to use a 3rd round pick on him, and I don't know if I want to give up Gibbs there, given that he's in the backfield and I need a running back there. If I've already got Kelce and Olave, I think it's a bit of a luxury to go too deep 0 running back, especially with Gibbs being such a good receiver. So round 4, if I can't get Calvin Ridley, I'm going with another player that has moved on from the NFC South that is on a new team this year. That's DJ Moore. I think, again, what all these guys have in common, Kelce, Olave, Moore, clear-cut number 1 targets on their team. So they're just going to be effective. There's nothing that I can say that is going to say these guys are not going to see the ample targets from their quarterbacks. They're going to be targeted a ton. They're very talented all across the board, Kelce, Olave, and DJ Moore. So I feel great about this team. And I don't know how I could make this better. Oh, yeah, there's ways to make this better. But so think about it. Round 1, I got my tight end 1. Then I've got Olave and Moore, my wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. I think both these guys could finish in the top 12. And Jahmyr Gibbs, who I like as an RB2, who could become an RB1. So love that start to the draft. What can I do in round 5 to top all this off? Now, I have banged the table a lot for Trevor Lawrence. I love him. But there's another quarterback in this range I like as well that I'm going to go after. So, yeah, people can have Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen. A little bit expensive for me. And that tier where people are getting aggressive with Lamar Jackson, Justin Fields, and Joe Burrow, I'm not going to tap into that. But if I can get aggressive, and depending on what's happening in my draft, I'm going to be aggressive for Justin Herbert. The numbers bear themselves out potentially for this Kellen Moore offense. So a lot of Moore here with DJ Moore and Kellen Moore, but Herbert looks great in the offense. He's going to be fully healthy, loaded with weapons now, gets His receivers back, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, along with the rookie Quentin Johnston. Have Gerald Everett at tight end, Josh Palmer, Austin Eckler. Just a lot of weapons here to put up numbers for Herbert. And he comes back strong. He was hurt, keep that in mind, and so were receivers last year. So a little bit banged up for him, a little bit banged up for his receiving core. I think Herbert comes back big time this season to be that elite QB1 we've seen before with him as a younger quarterback. So look at this start. So I didn't go zero RB. I didn't go hero RB. I did go hero tight end here, Travis Kelce, but I love the start immediately for my team. So I may have gone a little bit aggressive and gone for players that may have been ranked a little bit lower with lower average draft position, but I couldn't be more thrilled about the start. So their start is this good. I wonder what our finish is going to be. So we'll look at that. We'll get through 5 more rounds and we'll close all the way through round 15 of the ideal/perfect draft that you can look at here in half point PPR 12-team leagues in 2023. We told you to stop. This episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by Gametime. And really, if you don't want to stress out about last-minute tickets and you want to score these great deals, there's no better place than Gametime.co. And really, the Gametime app is going to be right there at your fingertips. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful, and Gametime is the easiest way to get tickets for everything you love. So that includes sports, music, comedy, theater, anything near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have with Gametime. Really, it's amazing because you can get flash deals there, and you don't have to think about an event. You can go spur of the moment, date night, just a night away from home that you can dive into, and you can expect the lowest price guaranteed. And there's event cancellation protection. So if something happens there, you are good to go, and there's coverage there. So forget planning months in advance. Gametime has deals right up to the day of the event. The Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price, even if you wait to the last minute. You can find tickets in the same section. And now for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference there if you find some better deals with that. So a lot of good stuff there with Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. That's the Gametime app, gametime.co. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, it is time to continue the look at the ideal mock draft. So early, tight end 1, Travis Kelce in round 1. Wide receiver 1, Chris Olave in round 2. Jahmyr Gibbs, RB1 in round 3. DJ Moore, wide receiver 2 in round 4. And then Justin Herbert, QB1 in round 5. So we've got a couple key starting spots filled here that a lot of teams wait on in drafts. So don't need to worry about tight end quarterback, right, for a while. So we're good there. So let's focus on delivering more of my RB and wide receiver depth. So let's look. Round 6, what's my target? James Cook. Now, we haven't talked a lot about James Cook. He wasn't mocked to either Michelle or I in some of these exercises we've done this week. But James Cook is rising up the boards because I think there's a realization he's going to be heavily involved as a receiver. There's no Nyheim Hines. He's just a better, more dynamic runner than Damian Harris, who's always hurt. So there's a little bit of Ramondre Stevenson developing here, part 2, with the new back partner with Harris in the AFC East. So, yeah, I like James Cook. Maybe we were buzzing about Dalvin going to the Jets, but maybe he's not even the best Cook brother in the AFC East. James Cook, a rising star, younger player, going to be involved in a pass-happy offense as a dedicated pass catcher. There's going to be more checkdowns than you'd think from Josh Allen. So James Cook also can finish well in the red zone. So I really like this here for James Cook in round 6. I love him as my RB2 at this stage of the draft for sure. Okay, we'll have to address running back a little bit more, right? I mean, you have Gibbs and Cook, 2 young players, a rookie and a second-year guy. Now in round 7, the easy target is Jahan Dotson. I love him as my wide receiver 3 because, again, another guy with some wide receiver 2 upside. So I got Olave, who's got top 5 upside. I got DJ Moore, who's got top 12 upside. And I've got Jahan Dotson, who has top 25 upside. So that's what I'm looking for. I want some guys that are going to outperform where they're going, their status. So wide receiver 3 for Dotson. This is a good ADP for him in round 7. So love this team so far. So now I've got my 3 wide receivers, my 2 running backs as well. So I get Gibbs and Cook round things out there, then Olave, Moore, and Dotson. Now, of course, I'm going to keep looking for some more depth here. This is really what I'm doing in these rounds here: running back, wide receiver, wide receiver, and it's what I can do well here because, again, I've taken care of things with Kelce and Herbert. It gives you so much more positional flexibility with the depth and the value that's available. So I look at A.J. Dillon in round number 8, and again, he's going to be involved heavily in the Packers' offense. Aaron Jones can break down. They need to lean on the run a little bit more. Very good offensive line restored here with David Bakhtiari and Ocean Jenkins being healthy. Dillon has also proved he can catch passes when needed here. He's the future of this offense. He had a little bit of an off year last year, but still ran well. Has some power and explosiveness that you can look at. But I'm not looking for huge things from A.J. Dillon. I'm not going to start him necessarily. He could be a flex guy that I consider, but that's what A.J. Dillon would be the poster player for, to do that, to play in the flex. So, and he's not going to be my only flex option. Hopefully, as the season goes on, I'm going to target some more guys here. So I had James Cook, Jahan Dotson, A.J. Dillon. Then I'm going to go after Sky Moore. It's worth having a piece of this Chiefs offense. Kadarius Toney is faded. Rasheed Rice is a rookie. Sky Moore might be just right. So Toney in year 3 and Rice as a rookie. In between, you have your second-year guy, Sky Moore here. So I do like the upside of playing Patrick Mahomes. Now, do I get concerned a little bit that he's operating with Travis Kelce? But if Moore has a breakout season playing off Kelce, it could be a lot like Travis Kelce and a poor man's Tyreek Hill back in the day with Kansas City. So would you say no to that? No, you wouldn't. So Sky Moore's number 9. Attaching yourself to an offense often, if you're going to do it with Kansas City, it's a good place to do it with. And finally, I look at round 10 in this segment. So my final pick here, look, I'm not over the moon about James Cook, A.J. Dillon. I like the values where they got them, and I think they can outperform round 6 and round 8 picks. Now we're back to another even round pick. I'm going to take Devin Akane, and I wanted some upside here. Like, I can plug and play these guys, potentially Dillon as a flex early in the season if I need to, and play off of Gibbs and Cook. But I could also look at Devin Akane and say, look, they've got 2 injured prone backs in front of them there with the Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. So it opens the door here, right, for Akane to have a big role for Mike McDaniel. He loves this draft pick. He's a perfect fit in the zone blocking running scheme. So I got an upside back that I'm taking here. So what I do, I got Gibbs with upside back, James Cook upside back, A.J. Dillon, kind of that bread and butter type back that is going to be involved in his offense. And I went right back to upside with Kane. So I'm not afraid of rookies. If they've got upside, I look at them in the same way that I would do as a reliable veteran. And you'll see, I am a rookie upside drafter, young players. I want them as much as possible. So there are actually a lot of young players that I value. And hint, this is not the last rookie I'm taking. So we'll look at rounds 11 through 15 here for the ideal half-point PPR 12-team league, round by round targets here for you to help you dominate your league. And then we'll recap why we think our team is that awesome here in 2023. Thanks again for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen every day. Every day or tomorrow, Michelle Medzouk will be back here, and we'll break down, again, what you want to consider late rounds, how you might approach kicker and defense. So kind of round out our look at mock drafts here ahead of a big mock draft weekend and, of course, going to Labor Day holiday. So you'll all be constructing your teams. We're Locked On Fantasy Football, your destination to become the smartest fantasy football player in the league. We're part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Find us on YouTube, subscribe, and follow for free wherever you get your podcasts. All right, it is time to close the show and my ideal draft here. So we won't go through all the picks here, rounds 1 through 10 in that fashion, but we'll look at what I have roster-wise. That's what you want to look at. So go by round, but now I want to see what I have position by position. So quarterback, still Justin Herbert, sitting on him. Running back, I have Jahmyr Gibbs and James Cook. Right now, tabbed as my starters, but behind them, A.J. Dillon and Devin Akane. At wide receiver, I have Chris Olave, DJ Moore, and Jahan Dotson as my wide receiver 1, 2, 3. Sky Moore with some upside as my wide receiver 4. And, of course, Travis Kelce is at tight end. So Herbert and Kelce are the core of this team, and everyone else we're building around these 2 studs. So what are we doing round 11? Well, I kind of said, look, we need to keep toggling back and forth between running backs and wide receivers we like, because we're okay at quarterback and tight end, and we're not going to take a defense until probably round 16. Maybe look at just the Commanders who are playing the Cardinals and that weak offense in week 1 at home. I'm going to look at that. Just try to get through week 1 and go there. And kicker, I'm just going to find a guy that I like that is on an offense that's going to score points, but has a big leg and has accuracy. So that's why you're not going to hear a kicker defense come off the board for me in a seasonal league format before round 16, 17. All right, round 11, Kenneth Gainwell seems like the pick. So more upside. Again, this is a back that has been underutilized in Philadelphia. Has a big opportunity here with Rashad Penny, DeAndre Swift durability issues, Boston Scott. I think Gainwell's passed him on the depth chart. So we know he's a lottery ticket. Gainwell would have a huge role and be very productive playing off Jalen Hurts, much like Miles Sanders last year in this elite offense, great running game, fantastic blocking. Gainwell can absolutely be a league winner at this stage, much like Devin King, and that's why I'm looking at him here. Now, round 12, and again, I am a heavy running back drafter. I'm not necessarily a heavy early running back drafter, as you saw here. I only took Jahmyr Gibbs in my first 5 picks, so if I realized that I'm a little bit weaker at running back, I need to go stock up on some options, right? So it makes a lot of sense. So I don't need to do that again with Herbert, Kelce. I'm okay. I feel really good about my wide receiver, so I'm going to lean a little bit more to running back. So I'm going to go Roschon Johnson. Here's yet another rookie off the board. He's done really well. I think he's going to displace Donta Foreman as their power back of choice. Khalil Herbert is there, but he's a little guy, had some durability issues. So if Roschon Johnson is, in essence, in a lot of that Dave Montgomery role last year, playing off Justin Fields, I like it. So round 12, I'm going to go after him based on his ADP and ranking. Round 13, still not done with rookies, Sam Laporta. I'm taking him because he has a decent matchup here when Travis Kelce is off during his bye week. So and the bye week is not for a while, and that's good. It's week 10, so Laporta should be immersed in the offense in Detroit. He'd be closer to being a second-year player than a rookie. So that's why I like Sam Laporta. I mean, we're just writing off rookie tight ends. I might not rely on Laporta. I know in one of the drafts on the previous show, Laporta was my starter. Ideally, I'd like him as a high upside backup to Kelce, and maybe he has some value later where I trade him. Now, I necessarily don't have to force myself into a backup situation when I have Kelce, but I like Laporta. I want some upside on my bench, maybe a flex play at some point if he's that good. So keep that in mind. If you've got a flex spot in your league, you can play a tight end there. So you want to give yourselves a few options here. So I do like Sam Laporta just for the value and also for the purposes of this draft. I want some depth and some upside and just prove that I want a little bit more of it here late. Now we go to round 14. Now I don't have to take a quarterback here, but I do like Jordan Love quite a bit during Justin Herbert's bye week. Now I will say there's some gamesmanship here involved as well that, look, I like Jordan Love's upside. Would I start him potentially in any week that isn't Justin Herbert's bye? No. There's a chance that Herbert could be the guy I ride all the time. But Jordan Love gets to play the Raiders on a Monday night game when it's not Justin Herbert's turn and the Chargers have a bye. So I'm intrigued by that quite a bit, right? I can put Jordan Love in there. I like his upside as well if something were to happen to Justin Herbert. So I get a combination of a very good backup, yet a player that can put in there for Herbert. Maybe there's a terrible matchup and I want to avoid with Herbert. It could be few and far between here, but I still have the option of Jordan Love if he has a plum matchup that I would pivot to. But I can't help the fact that I noticed that Jordan Love and the Packers play the Raiders when you have Justin Herbert off on his bye this week or the season. So if I had Jordan Love, I think we'll end up with one more Packer. It's not that I forced myself to get another Packer here. I already have A.J. Dillon and Jordan Love, but I'm going to go after the best value receiver. Kind of like I looked at Roschon Johnson as the Bears back because I can invest the least in him versus Donta Foreman or Khalil Herbert or Devin Achane, kind of on the same level as Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. So I'm going for the Packers receiver behind Christian Watson, who you have to be very expensive to get. Romeo Doubs is climbing up the board. So round 15, I'm going Jane Reed. I think I already gave away what I'm going to do in round 16, 17. But look, I like Jane Reed here because the Packers slot can be huge. He's had a very good camp. I think it's a crapshoot a little bit on who's going to be the top receiver in terms of volume, production, scoring for the Packers between Watson, Doubs, and Reed. I think Doubs has a chance to be the better outside receiver than Johnson here, but Reed could be the key slot guy. And again, 11 personnel is probably going to be what the Packers run a little bit more of here, and they don't have a lot they can trust behind Luke Musgrave at tight end, so that could also help all these receivers being on the field and opening things up for Jordan Love. So, yeah, this is our ideal draft. Let's go down it one more time here. And again, I would insert kicker here in round 17. In round 16, I'm just going for a good week 1 matchup to try to win a defense, and that is the Washington Commanders. Circle them. They're the first streamer you want at home against the lowly Arizona Cardinals offense and their unknown quarterback situation to open the season. Travis Kelce, round 1. Chris Olave, round 2. Jahmyr Gibbs, round 3. DJ Moore, round 4. Justin Herbert, James Cook, John Dotson, AJ Dillon, Sky Moore, Devin Kane, Kenneth Gainwell, Roshan Johnson, Sam Laporta, Jordan Love, Jayden Reed. This is my ideal draft. I could go to battle with this team and feel really good about it. Like the upside, like the reliability, like Herbert and Kelce on this team. Youth serving. I don't have a lot of lacking experience on this team in a lot of places, but I also have a lot of youth on this team. When I count up the rookies, you got Gibbs, you've got Devin Kane, you've got Roshan Johnson, you've got Sam Laporta, and Jayden Reed. This seems like a lot of rookies, right? But I'm looking at the role, not necessarily their experience, and rookies, second-year players, third-year players, these guys have the upside. So a couple of takeaways from my team. Economy of roster spots with Kelce and Herbert. Useful siding here. Changing teams, changing schemes. What can you get? DJ Moore falls in that. Jahan Dotson falls in that category here as well. So I love all these things that are kind of in my makeup of the team, that I have a combination of some experience, youth in between, and just upside players all together. So that's what you're looking for, as much upside. I swing for the fences. I go big. I want players that are just not going to be okay players later in drafts, but can really pay off. And I feel with this team, I have it across the board. So good luck in your fantasy football drafts, but that's an approach. And again, if you were afraid to maybe take Travis Kelce early in your drafts, don't be, because you can construct this type of winning team all draft season long here for yourself. So that's the key. Maybe Kelce is the key to opening it all up here. And again, I can't complain with last year's results because he helped me win a lot in fantasy football. For Locked On Fantasy Football and our look at the ideal, perfect round-by-round picks through round 15 in a half-point PPR 12-team league. This has been Vinnie Iyer. We'll check you out tomorrow, closing the week with Michelle, looking at late round strategies here for your drafts.